Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 511 on a Tuesday, the 31st of January, 2023. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew, and this week we'll be noting how crisis negotiators who speak both French and Japanese have made a packet. We eat a little humble pie when it comes to new car news, and we learn how one pop band got Norway all excited for EVs. But first we have some follow-up, and this is the story that is moving apace even as we record this, that there are buyers being sought for BRITISHVOLT. Mm-hmm. When we added the link to Peter Campbell's Twitter thread in the show notes, there was 5. There might actually be more by now, and today is apparently the day they are desperately trying to decide upon a buyer before the end of the month for, I don't know what reasons why it needs to be before the end of January, but it apparently does. Mm-hmm. And they come from all sorts. There's an Australian firm involved. There's plenty of others. As ever, links in the show notes. And by the time this comes out, the story will have moved further on again.
I was going to say, you mean like happened the other week?
And then we'll have to update it next week again. Just have a look and see what's going on.
Just one thing, though, and that's LinkedIn. I can't stand LinkedIn, but I noticed that the former head of strategy...
Yes.
And whatever else for BRITISHVOLT has been posting on LinkedIn. Seems to be blaming absolutely everyone apart from BRITISHVOLT. BRITISHVOLT without the customer and without the product. That's the one thing she hasn't said. So everything has been the government's fault so far. Now, I am pretty much the first to stick the boot in anytime it comes to the government and big projects and stuff. But really... I think that this is quite spectacular by declaring this is everyone else's fault. This has kind of been run the way big investment programs and projects are run. But this does seem to have been something of a surprise to BRITISHVOLT management. I could be being very harsh. I could be completely wrong, of course. But I'm not convinced I am.
No, I don't think so, because the language about this particular person when the redundancies were announced was, we're terribly unlucky, feel very bad for the employees. You know, bearing in mind this is the strategic director.
Well, that's true. You can feel bad for the employees. I mean, that's...
But making it out as though they're just the company's just been unlucky, and then coming out and responding to the FT's article about the current British government's plans with subsidies and research and how that needs to change. And then saying, well, see, this is what caused BRITISHVOLT to go all wahoonie-shaped. But as Alan said, and as we have said repeatedly, there is no product, there is no IP, there was no customers, and yet they employed over 300 people. Mm-hmm. The money was only ever going one way at that point. As we said when the rumours came out that Grant Shapps had said no to bringing money forward from the particular milestones that needed to be reached, which again was apparently a bit of a surprise for them, that they didn't expect milestones and releasing of cash at certain proof that they were moving forward as expected instead of just throwing our tax-paid money away. This was the one of the few things that I've actually congratulated the government on doing, which was to not waste our money.
Yeah.
I'm not buying that, I'm not taking that, and I don't think the person should be listened with any credulence at all.
And if anybody does sort of question my LinkedIn on that kind of thing, then do go look at it, and you'll see that I've been involved with quite a lot of large projects and change and stuff like that, where this is normal.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to point out that I'm talking from some sort of point.
What, from knowledge and experience?
I'm being an argumentative prat through knowledge and experience. Yes, that's it.
Right, well, why don't you take us on to HMRC and then finally, after people campaigning, finally adjusting how they calculate something for certain people.
Tax and stuff is something I'm not wonderfully knowledgeable about, to be honest. So let's make sure I'm clear where my failings lie as well. But HMRC is changing the way that the advisory electricity rate, or the AER, is calculated in order to reflect the prices of electricity and stuff. the AER is the rate used by companies to reimburse electric company car drivers for business mileage, and was based only on an annual figure that was published by the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. Yes, we all know of them, and it's just tripped off our tongue, as well as the electrical energy consumption for each car model, which came from the Department of Transport. HMRC will continue to use both of those figures, but they will also incorporate figures from the Office of National Statistics and their quarterly index for domestic electricity. It will be a little more flexible in order to reflect the costs of electricity. The outcome of this is that the AER increased from 5 to 8 pence per mile on the 1st of December. And I think we can start to look at this probably changing more regularly than that now. There was a poll by Fleet News, and of course the link to the story is in the show notes, which said that almost 3/4 of respondents, 73.5% indeed, believed that it should be 10 pence per mile or more, while 1 in 5 said it should be 3 times the current rate, with it being about 15 pence per mile to cover their charging costs. Those are both believable numbers, really, I think.
Well, because in 2017, when the average cost of standard electricity in the UK was 14.4 pence per kilowatt per hour, and that was what was first used to calculate the AER, as of the end of last year, it was 34p.
Yeah.
The 5p really isn't reflective, even if you take into account, and this was a good point you made before we started recording, you did mention this, is the business in kind, benefit in kind, that people who have an EV get, or the low rate that they pay as a consequence of having an EV, means that it sort of overall evens out, whilst they don't necessarily get it straight back in their pocket via the amount that they're reimbursed per mileage. I
think the idea
it's a lot closer than it was, but I think more than 10p a mile does seem fairer.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's obviously the idea is that if you're running a battery electric vehicle as a company car, then that's seen as greener, and therefore you're meant to be being rewarded for that, or not penalised as much, I think is probably a better phrase.
Yes.
So you're meant to be not being penalised quite as much for having these green cars, but there isn't quite the difference that there was previously.
No. I'm going to take us on to new news now, and the shock news of the week, and that's that AKIO Toyoda has stepped down as a Toyota CEO. He's going to take up the reins as Toyota chairman, and the Lexus and Gazoo racing boss will now be CEO. So this sort of came out of the blue, I have to say.
Yeah, this was quite unexpected. The only thing that could have made it more was that the Toyota's shares had dipped below a certain point. I've now forgotten what that certain point was. I think it was 2,000 yen. Forgive me if I'm wrong on that, and do feel free to correct me. It had dropped slightly, and I think that he, according to the various statements that have been reported, he felt that, maybe he's too much of a traditional car person, and that perhaps it was time to let someone else start to take the reins, who might be better at some of the other, who might be maybe more interested, have more push into some of the areas of mobility, EVs, etc., etc. One of the key things, I think, and there's a lot of commentary on this, and there'll be links to a couple of those in the show notes.
Yeah.
Some of them say, well, obviously this is because Toyota's behind on EVs, but then other comments are about, well, Toyota tries to deliver a full range right around the world.
Yeah.
Into a lot of developing countries as well, where people just don't have access to that much electricity. So Toyota can't sit there and go, yeah, we're going to go all EV, because they're not just in 2 or 3 territories around the world. They are everywhere, and they can't do that because, quite frankly, if they do that, they won't have any customers.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit the other way as well. In maybe North America and Europe, people go, oh, they're not enough electric, and then complain that way that they might not have enough customers. But
I think there's there is absolute, as a car person, there's an absolute sackload of positives to take out of his tenure.
Oh, yeah.
But I think
There's one of them parked in the street out the front.
yes, but I think one of the missteps has been how slow they have been to go to full EV. I know certain reasons behind that. You can see that by the way that they've developed things, like they've spent so long with the hybrid technology, but you would have hoped that the knowledge through the hybrid battery tech, they would have been able to move to full EVs quicker. But I think that's not just a Toyota issue. I would suggest that all the Japanese car makers, bar Nissan because of the Leaf,
which is really a Renault.
But that stopped. That hasn't really progressed until lately forward. I mean, they had the Leaf and that was it for ages. So many, we could say all the German companies didn't move on EVs at all until Dieselgate. The Japanese ones went into that tech and then stopped.
That's not quite true. The exception to that is BMW and the i3. But yes, apart from that, notable exception, you're right about the Germans, I think.
The Americans weren't doing anything about that except Tesla. There's lots of fingers we can point at, lots of as much as anything, it's lots of cultures. Yeah. But I would have hoped Toyota would have been further along the line. Although when you look at what they're saying they're going to bring out and what they've started to bring out, it does look, they're not holding back. It's not one or two models. They've got a massive, huge range between now and 2030, 2035, whatever the cut-off date is. I can't remember off the top of my head now. He said there's going to be no more boring cars. Yeah. And I think we can say with the Grimm, with the GR Yaris, with the Supra, with
GR86.
Yeah, with Gazoo Racing, with the World Rally stuff, all that things that they've done has just been, it has stopped Toyota being a company that made white goods cars into one that people are excited about.
Yeah, and I saw some pictures of the launch of the facelifted Corolla, standard Corolla, not the GR Corolla, the other day, and people saying, wow, this is a really nice looking car. That didn't happen for the Iris or any of the previous Corollas, it just didn't happen. And there's a big trickle-down effect on that kind of thing as well. So we'll see what happens. People are saying there's not going to be a massive sea change, that the no more boring cars thing looks like it's going to continue because that has been quite successful.
Well, the new boss was the boss of Gazoo Racing, which benefited directly from that. Yes. Also the boss of Lexus, which they've not been making boring cars for ages. The styling may clash in personal terms with a few of them, but they are not boring cars. True. I think they realised to stand out and to be the world's number one car seller, you need to make exciting products. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, sticking with Japan, but also adding a slight French twist to it, Alan, do you want to take us to the Rebel Alliance?
Yes, everybody's favourite alliance. Essentially, Nissan and Renault have agreed that they are going to rejig the alliance a little bit. And the big news about the rejigging of the alliance is that it's going to make them more equal. One of the big bones of contention is that previously Renault owned 43% of Nissan, and Nissan owned 15% of Renault, and Nissan management were becoming increasingly unamused by this. Yes. And this is a large part of what formed the whole Ghosn thing. This is really the core, one of the core things behind it was seeing the loss of control owned by the French, etc., etc., etc. Renault is going to decrease its stake in Nissan to 15%. Goodness, what a surprising number that is. And that they will put 28% of the Japanese automaker into a French trust, and that will make them more equal. Yes. At the same time, we have mentioned before that Renault are starting essentially an EV side company, the name of which escapes me.
Is it Ampere?
It's Ampere, it is, yes. Which is a very good name for an EV company, really. They are both going to become almost equal. Well, Nissan are going to invest and take up a fair chunk of that. Was it 25%?
Note 15% again.
15%
It's the magic
again.
number.
Do you know what? I started to doubt it because I had 15% in my mind from when I'd read this story before.
Seems this is the only number they can all agree on.
Yes, 15 is the magic number. So there's quite a lot of rejigging going on there. Do you think it's a good thing?
I think everybody needed it in the alliance. They needed to stop trying to eat themselves and argue with each other, and they desperately need to be focusing on future products and moving things forward, because the pace of change in the car industry is just astonishing at the minute. And both companies have got new models out which people are saying very positive things about.
The Araya, for example.
Yeah, and the Nissan products have been well received. Renault's latest models that are out have been well received. They've both taken an upturn from where they produce sort of like so-so stuff.
Just mediocre road furniture.
Yeah, and that's changed. And if they can work together, then obviously they can do this quicker. Plus, the investments that's required for the circular economy and for EVs and for any driver assistance, it's just so expensive at the minute that they have to pull. And I think we'll see, and we are already seeing it, although Ford and Volkswagen are stepping back from each other. But these big companies are going to have to work together and share a lot of technology and a lot of investment.
Yeah,
because it's just too expensive to do, especially as there are more and more threats to their income, i.e. people buying cars because they won't be allowed to drive in certain areas or things like that. They're being squeezed, not even pushed, just squeezed from every direction now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons Renault has its own they're starting the whole sub-mobility thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, in related news, by the way, just in case you think this has all gone a bit wet, Nissan have released a new GTR.
Oh yeah, they've tweaked the front end, haven't they?
Very difficult to tell the difference from any of the other GTRs, but supposedly there is another facelift of the GTR. I don't think it's being sold in Europe now.
No.
I think I know that because it's in North America.
But just to confirm on this story, we'll find out the full details by the February the 6th, including what it means for Mitsubishi, because don't forget they're the
the forgotten ones.
The forgotten, trailing along in the background ones that got snapped up because they made such a horlicks of things and got saved that way.
It's odd seeing you and Mitsubishi on the road in the US.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all it's really only Outlanders. Oh, Outlanders and the Mirage, which just looks. It only seems to be available in hair shirt specification, and it just looks ridiculous. It's just like, I want a car. No, I don't really care about the car. I just want it to be a car and it to be new. That's it. And always white as well.
Oh, ouch.
And hubcaps.
More positive news then. I'm going to take us to Jaguar Land Rover, and they have posted their first profitable quarter since 2020. And hurrah, we all say.
Yes.
A lot of this is down to how well the new Range Rover and the new Range Rover lineup has been received in the US. A lot of people have bought them over there.
I saw a Range Rover Sport last weekend.
Oh, yeah?
I had to do a double take because, first of all, I thought it was a Lincoln. Which isn't as ridiculous. If you're aware of the modern ranges, that's not as odd as it sounds. And it was going off a slip road, so I couldn't really see it. But I did a bit of a rubber neck, and it was like, oh, that is a Range Rover Sport. But it looks kind of good.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the latest Range Rover looks good as well, which is not a mean feat to pull off. So that's interesting. So what they did is pre-tax profits were £265 million. Now, the same period the year before, they'd made a loss of 52 million, but that obviously went down further and further over last year as the chip crisis kept hitting a Jaguar Land Rover. Obviously, not too much input from Jaguar in all this. This is mainly Land Rover side of things. Because we're still waiting to find out what their strategy is going to be.
It's going to be Bentley.
Well, yeah, okay. Was that not the last boss who said that?
That was the last boss.
They do need to change. They do need to put a new boss in and then decide what they're going to do. It makes me worry. But at least there is some good news for Jaguar Land Rover, and we are delighted that we can say some good news.
I know, because sometimes you just feel that all we do is beat some companies with sticks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because all that comes out is a bit rubbishy. So it's nice to see something like that and to be able to say something positive.
It is. Talking of rubbishy news, you want to take us for a quick spin to one road on one particular stretch in France?
Yes, so this is a road out in the commune of Sergi-sur-Bray, which I'm sure you all know of. And that is in Loire-et-Cher. And it's on the D357 between Le Mans and Orléans. And it's on a hill.
Okay.
And what this camera has done is it's sent out 50,000, it's flashed 50,000 vehicles in the course of a month.
Is that normal?
No, last year it flashed 53 in the same period.
Okay. So somebody noticed this then?
Eventually, this was noticed. And it turns out that what's happened is they pointed the speed camera the wrong way. It was a setup issue. So there's an sort of asymmetric speed limit because there is a downhill. On the downhill side, the speed limit is lower.
Yeah.
To sort of keep back trucks and stuff, because it's quite a steep hill. And on the uphill side, the speed limit is just as you'd expect. So they'd pointed it the wrong way. It was putting the lower speed limit onto the side of the road that had the higher limit. Sent out about 50,000 tickets. The mayor of the commune, the police, and everyone is basically saying, like, if you get a ticket from this, just ignore it. Don't even try and pay it.
That's
they will all be cleared in time. Just don't pay it.
I thought that was a hilariously very French way to react to this thing, because over here in the UK, if we'd had that, it would be no, you need to submit and fill out the form to say no, that's when the camera was incorrectly calibrated, therefore please let me off this thing, or something like that. Whereas over there in France, they just basically go, civil disobedience, tell them to get stuffed, just ignore it, it's fine.
So the statement from the mayor's office was, we are sorry for everyone affected and we can only advise people not to pay these fines. It was a similar one from the local gendarmerie as well. Yes, good luck. A similar thing happened in Charente-Maritime in 2022, it seems, as well. But official cancellation notices will ultimately follow. That's the important bit there. So.
Yeah. Okay, from people going too fast to people potentially not stopping. Volvo has recalled over 100,000 cars globally because there is the risk of the automatic safety brake not deploying whilst on the move. Now, this is rare. It needs to be made clear this is rare, not common, and this could happen, as needs to be said in a lot of these recalls. It is taking the worst case scenario, which in this instance would be bad, and reacting to it, which is what we hope all proper and grown-up car companies do, and we see increasingly they are.
Is it worth saying at this point, it doesn't impact when the driver manually brakes via the brake pedal?
That's correct.
So it's not actually stopping the brake working, it is the automatic emergency braking.
Yes, that is what it is. Anyone with one of the cars affected will be contacted by Volvo, and they will be brought in and it will be updated and all sorted out. Okay, do you want to take us to the UK government and them spending some cash?
UK government are spending some cash to decarbonise our roads. And I read that and thought, what on earth is this? This is looking at different ways to essentially maintain roads in a way that is more environmentally friendly. There's a number of different things that they're looking at. And that includes things like making bitumen and tarmac Adam from other substances.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite important because it seems that there's a bit of an asphalt shortage in this country right at the moment, which probably isn't helped by the great big holes in the road everybody needs to fill. But it's actually quite interesting the way it's all being divvied up.
Yes.
I don't know if
has
you noticed
been
this.
spread around.
It has very much spread around because we started in the north, where North Lanarkshire Council will build a centre dedicated to testing and developing materials recycled from other industries to build roads. So that might include demolition rubble and that kind of thing being mixed in, especially at the base level underneath the asphalt, which is perfectly sensible. We talked about loads of that kind of thing. You can also mix other things into concrete as well to enhance properties there. I've seen that demonstrated in the past at mining and construction shows. Transport for West Midlands will be investigating wider decarbonised highway materials, which I think goes into part of what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's plastic safety barriers or something. That's the opposite, isn't it?
Yeah, but it won't be plastic.
No.
Hemp.
Hemp safety rope down the middle of the motorways. Yeah, that works. South Gloucester Council and West Sussex County Council will collaborate to develop green infrastructure, which includes building roads from biomass and green waste. That just sounds gross.
Yes.
East Riding of Yorkshire Council will work to increase low-carbon lighting efficiency while optimising visibility in order to deploy new highway lighting, road markings and signage.
Well, on that
LED
front, but associated with that, there's a huge junction that feeds a couple of motorways and main roads near Liverpool that the cat's eyes actually light up, depending on which traffic lights from which filter lanes that you're being brought in. You are guided along the road by the cat's eyes.
Oh, that's really cool.
Which then reduces how much lighting they need overhead because you're following the lights along the road in the dark and low light conditions, which I think is a really great idea, and it makes it so easy to spot as well.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, maybe it's that sort of thing.
Some of those are really cool. Some have solar on the top, but also they're charged by cars running over them.
Oh, so it's like a...
So as you run over it, it's like one of those dynamo torches we had when we were little because we were that age, where you sort of pump them to generate electricity. They kind of do that, but then store it in little batteries, just enough to light the LEDs.
Yeah, so that there are things that will actually help us rather than it be purely infrastructure that we won't see in all this.
Two more. Liverpool City Council will explore a host of decarbonisation systems specifically for cities, and Somerset County Council, Cornwall Council and Hampshire County Council will pioneer net zero roads that will be built without creating more carbon emissions in 9 net zero corridors. There's quite a lot of inverted commas in there, which I hope you could hear them.
Yes, that's...
Yes, so they're all going to be looking to examine alternative fuels, asphalt additives, etc., etc., etc. Sounds like a good plan. It's kind of nice it's been spread around, to be perfectly honest.
I like the fact that they're looking at all sorts of it, all aspects of the infrastructure. I think it's needed. It's desperately needed because it's not all about the tailpipe emissions. It's not, it's the whole, it's the interconnectedness
You're trying
of everything.
not to say circular economy, aren't you?
Yeah, I desperately tried not to.
Yeah, you failed. Well, no.
No, I was okay because you did it.
He was moving his arm in a circle, everyone. That was the giveaway. The arm was going in a circle. It's like sitting beside a windmill.
Well, it could also be seen as the sign for wrapping up the end of part 1.
Well, it could, yes. Which, of course, means that it's Guild Minute. Quick break in the show where we ask for a tad of financial support to keep the lights on and the hosting running. If you feel that Motoring Podcast is worth a small consideration every month, then you can become a patron. The different levels of patron include different levels of commitment from us to you, including being able to watch the show recorded live. We also have a small range of merchandise in our spring store, from stickers to mugs and t-shirts. If you don't have any spare cash, and we completely understand, then you can help by following for free from a podcast player to receive every show as they're released, and by liking and rating the show in whatever way your podcast supplier lets you. If you've done all of that, and some of you do so, thank you very much indeed, then the last thing you can do is to recommend us to your friends or colleagues. Just quickly, on the mention of the spring store, having a chat earlier on, and someone was saying that stuff that they ordered some time ago has still taken a while to arrive from outside the UK. It seems that sort of Christmas and strikes, and then Royal Mail systems breaking in spectacular fashion because they're not maintained. If you've heard any of my rants about airlines and airline IT, apply to Royal Mail as well. And And yes, so stuff seems to be taking its time. I'm really sorry. Spring seemed pretty good. It's been good when I've ordered stuff. It will get to you. It just might take a while.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing
And there's
any
nothing
of us can do about it.
Nothing
Even then.
Spring can do about Royal Mail and not processing packages from abroad. Thank you for your patience.
Yes, thank you very much. Anyway, new car news, Andrew.
Yes, and didn't the internet get all excited about news from Suzuki? They confirmed that there will be an electric Jimny, and I was one of those who got excited too, I have to admit. And this was actually part of one of 5 new EVs that they are going to launch in Europe by 2030, which was...
So at some point in the next 8 years, you'll see an electric Jimny, everyone.
Yeah,
That's just about the time that a standard Jimny will have made it to 60 miles an hour.
Yes, that was the bit that I deflated slightly, I have to say. But this is all part of a huge investment that Suzuki is making into electrification. They are putting £3 billion worth of investment into battery development. That will include them making they will also be building a battery factory, which is costing significantly more than that. But their first EV, they've released some images, I think, on this, was the images of a concept, the EVX concept, which is about an S-Cross sized crossover. S-size, all the crosses.
So that's Focus size, by the way. Just for anyone who can't remember what size an S-Cross is, because they're so hard to spot.
Well, it depends if it was the first version, then it was those horrific chrome grills.
Yes.
That they then toned down.
You know, I had completely forgotten about the chrome grille. I was thinking of the one that was the same as the Fiat. Yeah, no, I had completely forgotten about the chrome grille version.
But that's going to have apparently about 342 miles range, so that's quite a good start. And then there's going to be 2 other SUVs. Think about Vitara-sized, Grand Vitara-sized, that will come out in due course. And of course, we don't know any real details about the electric Jimny. I would imagine it's going to look like a Jimny, but have battery packs.
Well, there's silhouettes. There seems that there was an infographic of sorts that was released by Suzuki, and it's been reproduced in this Autocar story. Again, link in the show notes. And so it looks like a Jimny, but with LED headlamps and a light-up grille. I mean, that's what I take from this. What I'm interested in is that they're saying one of those 5 models is probably going to be car size.
Interesting.
So, like a Wagon-R. It's cool.
Yes, absolutely. But this all ties in what you were saying before about Toyota and the markets that they are generally in. This is European specific because Europe's making such strides to being electrified and cleaning up
Suzuki is a
emission.
big player in India.
Oh, yeah. Suzuki is huge in developing countries and in third world countries and those sort of regions. So it cannot afford to just cut off internal combustion engines, because they have to fund it just says here, the 15 billions in the battery plant, the 3 billion in developing battery tech.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. However you slice it up, you've got to sell a lot of things to be able to recoup that and make that worthwhile.
And Suzuki no longer have any presence in North America.
Okay.
Not for the last couple of years, it seems. That's one market where even Mitsubishi are in North America. But that's one of these sort of electrifying markets, which there's no point in investing for that because they're just not in it.
No. Do you want to bring us back to Britain, though?
Well, yes. Now, we've had a little bit of debate about this before we started recording, because I think that this is almost follow-up. Because I feel that maybe a year, 18 months ago, we did a story about the Wells Vertige. And I think I said, well, that's all very nice, but like so many of these things, I doubt we'll ever hear about it again.
I bet we used TVR as well.
Probably muttered something about TVR. I may even have not so much Ginetta, but I may have muttered about that. Wells Vertige is going to be a new £50,000 British sports coupe. It was revealed in summer 2021, so I'll bet you that's when we talked about it.
Yes.
And they're saying that they're going to be available in mid-2023.
Well, they will have produced them in mid-2023 because they'd already sold the allocation of 25 production models so far. So this is customers actually getting delivery of them.
Yes. Yeah. So that's not like, oh, we might actually just make it. This is 25 people receiving their car.
Yes.
What's interesting about this as well, I mean, it's a kind of 1960s style, sort of 1960s mid-engine Lotus look to it.
Yeah, there's definite, yeah.
And it is being built in a new factory in a place called Bishop's Itchington in Warwickshire, which is not far. I know, it makes me laugh every time. When I first moved down to Englandshire, my boss lived around there, and we used to have to go to his for meetings, and yeah, Bishop's Itchington signs always made me chuckle. It's really not far from Gaydon. It's maybe 10, 15 minutes from Gaydon.
Okay.
Lots and lots of automotive engineers around there, that sort of area. But they've been doing test miles and testing, and that's what they've been up to since 2021. They've spent lots of time on wind noise and all sorts of bits and pieces, and all sorts of the little niggly things that are really hard when you're making a new car, really. But the idea is that it uses as many local suppliers as possible, that they've got, they've trained a manufacturing team and all sorts of stuff like this. So it does seem to be, I was going to say a local car for local people, but that really is not being very kind to it at all. But there's a lot of trying to make the supply chains as short as possible by the looks of it, trying to make sure there is refinement, which is that. So there's a quote here, Autocar Story, Steve Cropley, and he's saying that wind noise has been defeated by subtle modifications to door apertures, new door seals, all these kind of things. The stuff that's really, really hard if you're a small manufacturer.
Yeah.
This is all pretty good news. This sounds very, very cool.
I am happy to eat humble pie on this one.
So am I, actually. The more I read, the more of that pie I'm quite happy to eat, actually.
Yeah, and keeping it to 50k.
Yeah.
People are going to possibly raise an eyebrow at only 208 horsepower, but it weighs 850 kilos or something ridiculous. So it is, you're talking 5 seconds 0 to 60 with a top speed, or just under 5 seconds with a top speed of close to 140 mile an hour. In a vehicle like this,
when you sit like your bums on the road,
yeah, you tell what religion the grit is.
Yes, exactly.
In the tarmac.
Then it is. I bet it feels really fast.
It's going to feel
fantastic.
Yeah,
I'd love to try it because with that lightweight, you can have compliant suspension. You can have all sorts of nice stuff like that, and I bet it's really nice. There's some good. If there are some good roads around there. Yeah, it's just around the corner from Cafe in the Machine.
I'm excited to keep an eye on this one, and I hope they continue. I hope they sell next year as well. Yeah. They seem to be doing this in stages and managing their own expectations and anyone else involved in the project's expectations and trying to do it properly. And it sounds like they don't want to grow too big either.
Yes.
But do read the article, Steve Cropley, so it's obviously excellent. But he explains a lot of the background stuff that, as Alan was saying, is very tricky or trips up small car manufacturers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we've heard good things from other sources as well, haven't we?
Yes, we have. Yes. Right, well, moving into points of interest, and I'm going to start with the lunchtime watch this week, because last year, a listener whose name I cannot remember because I cannot find it on the Twitter thread, suggested this to us. So if you were the listener that suggested Super Coopers on the Nicole Johnson's Detour, please do let us know that it was you, because I'm so sorry, because I want to thank you properly for it and not just this mess that I've just made of it. But this is all about a chap in America. Tyler Gildred is, well, it says in the description, obsessed with minis, the original Mini. And he is. If you watch the video, you will see
yard and his barn, workshop and everything. It's amazing.
I mean, this would be amazing if it was the UK, but he's in America, and he has properly taken to the Mini, to the point where he's actually stuck a Honda VTEC and made it a mid-engined car, and that's amazing. But we're not suggesting, because we know that's sacrilege for a lot of people.
Very different from Mugen Mighty Car Mods is one, by the way.
Yes. The attention to detail and the engineering that goes into this, considering it's a bloke in a barn, as it were. I know he's got a proper workshop and everything, but it is great. But they also explore his other non or more original style Minis as well, and it's just fabulous, because that someone in America celebrates such iconic British car is brilliant.
Can I just quickly say, there are a couple of misspeaks near the beginning, which you, as our listeners, will pick up on. Just let them go. Don't write off.
Enjoy the whole ride. Don't fixate.
Just enjoy it. Don't fixate on a couple of misspeaks. Okay, please.
He's talking to himself there.
I had a bit of a moment about it, and then actually thought, no, I really enjoyed all of that. So I'm just warning you guys, because we're all as bad as each other. Just let it go. Let it go.
Just enjoy the fun, because it is fun.
Frozen effect.
It is fun.
A list of the week then this week. Good, bad, or ugly, the biggest automotive fads. And it is a list from Autocar. It is an Autocar slideshow.
That appears to work.
It works these days, mostly. Okay, wow. There's a lot of good ones here.
There's a lot of bad ones.
There are some pretty awful ones too. Andrew, do you have any particular?
I have a positive good one.
Okay.
It was a bit close, because there was another one that was similar, but my positive good one is spotlights.
Oh, yeah.
I have yet to see a car where spotlights don't make it better.
Sometimes it's because it's a very ugly car and it's disguising the front of the car.
But in here, I mean, there's a number here. Is there any in here that maybe you want to go to the less positive side of things? Well,
there is. I mean, there are some which are very obvious, and I think that I would be doing a disservice with that. I'm just quickly flicking through to see if there is one particular one which I can't see, so I'm going to choose the background one there, which is the trapped hands.
Yeah, that
is trapped fingers one hanging out from the boot, which is fake hands that look like someone's trapped in the boot.
That's funny at Halloween.
Yeah, that's funny at Halloween for maybe like
the night of Halloween,
a couple of days before, perhaps. I'll give you that long.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe up until the weekend afterwards, if it's middle of the week for Halloween. But yeah, there are other body parts hanging off the back of vehicles. I was looking to see if that was listed there, because that's terribly unfunny as well.
Yeah, there are some crackers in there as well. So do run through the list. Don't forget to tell us if you agree with our choices, and what you would pick.
There's some there which I cannot tell if they are positive or negative, to be honest.
It depends on your mood.
It depends on my mood and your choices, your taste in cars. Very much. So I think that brings us to the end finally, Andrew.
It does, and this is from the BBC News, and this is an article that is headlined "How Pop Band Aha Inspired Norway's Electric Car Revolution." Now, this is quite the tale, because they go back to the 80s, and there was environmental activists. Now, right, don't spit your tea out and get all cross, everybody. Just bear with in this one, because this appears to be a way that they could demonstrate, unlike the current activists who glue themselves to a road.
Yeah, well, this was basically, when you read it back, when you read the article, you realize that they sort of started the whole Norway as it is now.
Yeah,
with just about every vehicle's an EV.
Yeah. Because what they did is these environmental activists got together with AHA, and they got a converted electric Fiat Panda, so that already makes it quite cool. A converted electric Panda, and they drove around Norway, breaking the law, as in they wouldn't pay toll booths, they parked illegally, sort of minor nuisance stuff rather than, oh, we'll block a motorway by going on a gantry, to raise the point. And because AHA were involved, obviously this made the news all the time, which then got people to pay attention to zero-emission vehicles. And then we can easily see the link as it moves down the year to Norway using their sovereign fund to subsidise and make it to the point where the majority of cars sold in Norway now are electric vehicles and will soon only be electric vehicles. And that's a remarkable bit of history into changing the culture of a country.
Yep. Yeah, it's really interesting. It just made me kind of smirk a little bit as I read it. So.
Yeah.
That's about that. No particular parish notes this week.
Nope.
As you see, we didn't manage video. It's weird. We're just not set up for being in the same room at the same time.
No.
It's weird. It is so much easier for us to record with an ocean in between, apart from time differences.
Yeah, I dread to think what the editing's going to be like anyway.
Yeah.
Because we're in the same, because I'm just not used to it. So the setup is not for that. So we're, fingers crossed, this has come out all right and you've listened to this far.
Yes. Well, it looked all right. It sounded all right through our headphones when we were testing. So there we go. But anyway, yes, don't forget that between now and next week, you can give us any feedback, share your thoughts of the show at Motoring Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, on Facebook, and on the contact page of motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon, and please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Andrew, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me is via Twitter. If you search for Crack Windscreen, you'll find me there. If you're into Mastodon, you can find my Mastodon address in my Twitter profile. And Alan, if people would like to talk to you personally and understand the horrors of being in the same room with me, what's the best way for them to do that?
It's just awful. Best way to get in touch with me is to use Twitter, where I'm at AJP Bradley. Again, same name on Mastodon as well. We'll be back very soon, but until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
And safe motoring.